What if the very things that, annoy you as an email reader?
Oh, right, like getting frequent messages in your inbox?
Yeah, exactly. Or automated welcome sequences, or even just like random pictures of someone's cat. What if those are the exact things your own audience is desperately begging for?
It creates this, well, this fascinating cognitive dissonance, doesn't it?
Totally.
Because we operate under this massive assumption that everyone experiences the digital world exactly the way we do. Like, we think our specific pet peeves are just universal laws of marketing.
Which means most creators, indie authors, small business owners, they're looking at their mailing lists with just utter dread.
Oh, absolutely. Utter dread.
We project our own intense inbox fatigue right onto our audience. We sit there at our keyboards thinking, I get too much email, I'm overwhelmed, so I really shouldn't bother them.
Right, you feel like a nuisance.
Yeah. But that mindset, it doesn't just stall your growth. It actually actively sabotages your connection with your most loyal fans.
Because you are fundamentally misunderstanding the relationship they actually want to have with you.
Exactly.
You're projecting your own burnout onto their enthusiasm.
Right.
And in doing that, you build this massive wall between yourself and the people who literally raise their hand and ask to hear from you.
So in this deep dive, we're going to dismantle those biases.
We really are. It's so needed.
The goal here is to help you stop treating your mailing list like some, mechanical soul-sucking chore that you just have to tick off a to-do list.
Yeah, we're going to explore the psychological shifts that are required to embrace your inner rock star, basically.
I love that phrase.
Right. And use that to build a rabidly engaged fan base. Because this specific mindset shift is the invisible ceiling holding back the true potential of, well, most businesses, honestly.
So to give you a roadmap of where we are going today, we are unpacking the foundational concepts from Tammi Labrecque's book, Newsletter Ninja.
Specifically the opening sections, yeah.
Right. We are looking at how she defines her own authority, how she defines you as the creator, and the essential, non-negotiable mindset shifts that just have to happen.
Before you even think about drafting your first email.
Exactly. And just to set the expectations for you listening, whether you are a seasoned entrepreneur or you're literally just starting out, this is not a technical manual.
No, definitely not.
We aren't here to walk you through which buttons to push on which software platform. This is a masterclass in audience psychology and mailing list philosophy.
Because understanding that psychological foundation, it's the only thing that separates the creators who merely, have a list from the creators who command a dedicated, mobilized community.
It's a fundamental rewiring.
Exactly. A rewiring of how you view the human beings on the other side of the screen.
So the text starts this rewiring process by basically holding up a mirror. Tammi points out that almost everyone who approaches a mailing list falls into one of three highly frustrating categories.
Right. It's essentially the 3 states of email purgatory.
Yes. Purgatory is the perfect word for it. Diagnosing which state you are in. That's the critical first step.
So the first category she identifies is the paralyzed beginner.
Oh, I've been there.
Haven't we all? These are the creators who know they need a list. Like, they hear that mantra, the money is in the list,
Right.
from every marketing voice out there.
Constantly.
But they are completely frozen. The sheer weight of the blank canvas, the fear of doing it wrong, it just keeps them from taking step 1.
Let's use an analogy to ground this.
Yeah.
Think of building your mailing list like opening a brand new gym.
Okay, a gym. I like that.
So that first category, the paralyzed beginner, that's the person who desperately wants to own a gym, but they are so paralyzed by the research phase.
Oh, right, like trying to pick the absolute perfect brand of treadmills.
Yes. Or debating, rubber flooring versus foam, to the point where they haven't even signed the lease.
They're just pacing outside an empty building.
Exactly. They're letting the dream exist as this perfect theoretical thing because they are just terrified of making a tangible mistake.
And that fear of the tangible is so incredibly common because, well, as long as you don't start the list, you can't fail at the list.
Right. It's safe.
But then we move to the second category, which is the frustrated grower.
Ah, yes. The frustrated grower.
This person actually signed the lease. They set up the list. They did the work to put the opt-in form on their website, but the list is painfully, infuriatingly small.
So back to our gym analogy. This is the owner who painted the walls. They bought the weights. They hired the staff.
And they're just sitting at the front desk listening to the hum of the fluorescent lights.
Exactly. Maybe one person walks in every 3 weeks. They built it, but nobody came.
They feel like they're shouting into an absolute void. And the psychological toll of that second state is immense.
It really is.
You feel like the market is actively rejecting you, when in reality, it's usually just a mechanical failure of visibility.
Right. People just don't know the gym is there.
Exactly. But that actually leads us to the third category, which is arguably the most deceptive and dangerous state of all.
The massive but totally dead list.
Right. This is the creator who looks wildly successful if you only glance at a spreadsheet.
Oh, yeah. They might have 10,000, 20,000, maybe even 50,000 subscribers.
But the engagement metrics are just abysmal. Nobody opens the emails. If they do open them, well, nobody clicks the links. Nobody replies.
It's a list in name only.
It's an audience of ghosts.
Returning to the gym for a second. This is like you have a massive facility, you have 5,000 members who pay their monthly dues, their names are all over the roster. It looks incredible to an outside investor.
But literally no one ever shows up to work out.
Yes. The room is completely empty day after day. Culturally, practically, it is a ghost town.
And what is particularly insidious about that third state is how often it gets celebrated in online business spaces.
Oh, people love to brag about their list size.
Right. Creators brag about the sheer size of their list as a vanity metric, like, I have a 30K list.
Yeah.
But if only 200 people are actually opening the emails, you don't have a 30K list.
No, you definitely don't.
You have a 200-person list and a massive monthly bill from your email provider for the other 29,800 ghosts.
Which is just burning money. And this is where we really need to talk about Tammi's authority, because she isn't diagnosing these three states from the sidelines.
No, she has seen the empty gym syndrome up close in almost every iteration possible.
Her background is what gives this text its weight, right?
Absolutely. She was traditionally published back in the 90s, then she transitioned to indie publishing around 2014.
Wow, so she's seen both sides of the industry.
Yeah, and she works across the entire publishing and marketing spectrum. She's operated as a plot doctor, an editor, an ads manager. She's worked with major indie collectives like Sterling and Stone.
So she isn't just speaking from the experience of, like, one single successful author.
Exactly. Her authority comes from seeing these exact three failures repeated across countless different businesses, genres, and industries.
So the practical takeaway for you listening right now is that you have to accurately and brutally diagnose your current state without any shame.
Right. Leave the shame at the door.
Are you pacing outside the building? Are you sitting at an empty front desk? Or are you staring at a roster of ghosts?
Because the philosophical principles we're about to explore, they are designed to solve all three of those issues simultaneously.
But they require a massive pivot in how you define the job.
A huge pivot. You have to stop thinking about your task as acquiring email addresses and start thinking about it as engaging human beings.
And that pivot is exactly why she takes a very, almost aggressive stance in the next section of the material.
She really does. The text establishes its boundaries by explicitly stating what it refuses to do.
Right. She admits to having this near phobia about not delivering value.
And because her desire to actually help the reader is so intense, she outright refuses to teach the technical, step-by-step button-pushing of software platforms.
So no tutorials on how to navigate the drop-down menus in MailChimp.
Nope, no screenshots showing you how to set up the API integration in ActiveCampaign or ConvertKit.
She strips all of that away to make it crystal clear that this is entirely about mailing list philosophy.
If we think about your goal as, say, wanting to become a master baker,
Okay, I'm with you.
learning the specific menus of MailChimp without understanding mailing list philosophy, it's a complete waste of time. It's the equivalent of spending weeks learning how to operate the digital keypad on a $10,000 commercial oven.
Without ever learning how to actually cook food,
Exactly.
you can memorize the manual for that oven. You can know exactly how to set the convection fan, how to program the steam injection, how to run the self-cleaning cycle down to the minute.
Right.
But if you put garbage ingredients into a mixing bowl, stir them together with zero understanding of flavor profiles, and shove it in that $10,000 oven.
You are going to bake a garbage cake.
A very well-heated garbage cake, but yes.
Because the oven changes. The software changes. Buttons move around every 6 months when these companies push a UI update, right?
Don't even get me started on the updates. It's so frustrating.
Right, but the recipe, the strategy, the psychology of your audience, the understanding of what makes people actually open an email, that is the only thing that actually feeds people.
I have to stop you there, though, because I can feel the listener's frustration bubbling up right now.
How so?
That analogy makes total sense, but it feels incredibly dismissive of people who just aren't tech-savvy.
Okay, fair point.
For a lot of beginners, the software IS, a massive insurmountable wall. Like if I don't know how to set up an automation sequence or I can't figure out how to embed the form on my website, all the philosophy in the world doesn't matter.
Right. They can't even turn the oven on.
Exactly. It's not just an oven, it's a locked door. Isn't the tech a completely valid roadblock?
Well, the tech is a reality, certainly. But what's fascinating is the underlying psychology of that specific complaint.
What do you mean?
Yes, learning a new interface takes effort. But creators very frequently use technical difficulties as a psychological shield.
It's a psychological field. Okay, unpack that.
It is infinitely easier and, frankly, far less emotionally vulnerable to tell yourself, I just can't figure out the tagging system in my email provider, than it is to admit the truth.
Which is?
I'm terrified to actually talk to my audience because they might not like what I have to say.
Wow. Okay, that is a profound shift in perspective.
Yeah.
You're saying the tech isn't the real hurdle, it's the hiding place.
It is the ultimate hiding place. The tech hurdle is a socially acceptable, very convenient excuse.
Yeah, nobody questions it when you say you're fighting with software.
Exactly. It protects you from the real, much more intimidating work of human connection.
Because if you are forever setting up your tech,
Or forever tweaking the design of your template, forever researching the perfect platform.
you never actually have to face the vulnerability of hitting send and waiting to see if anyone cares.
Precisely. By stripping away the tech tutorials, the text is forcing the reader out from behind that shield.
She is basically saying, I'm not going to let you hide behind the commercial oven anymore. We are going to look at your ingredients, and we're going to see if you actually know how to bake.
That's exactly it. And if the tech really is daunting, well, the solution isn't to buy a philosophy book hoping for a tech manual.
Right.
The solution is to read the free help docs, watch a YouTube tutorial, or just hire a virtual assistant for 3 hours to set it up for you.
Yeah, outsource the oven setup.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Because the real work of an entrepreneur, the part you cannot outsource, is mastering the strategy.
Now, when an author or an expert strips away a reader's primary excuse like that, it usually triggers massive resistance.
Oh, human nature. If you take away someone's psychological shield, they're going to push back hard.
And the text anticipates this beautifully. Before she even gets into the meat of her core philosophy, she utilizes a tool that is absolutely vital for any creator to understand and adopt.
She preempts the reader's objections.
Yeah.
The text explicitly notes a rule of communication. Answering an objection is 10 times more powerful if you answer it before it even arises in the reader's mind.
It is essentially the Jedi mind trick of marketing.
Really is.
When you anticipate the skepticism of your audience and voice it for them, you immediately disarm their defensive mechanisms. Let's look at the mechanics of how this actually plays out in a real-world scenario.
Okay, imagine a high-stakes sales environment.
Right. Let's say you are trying to sell me a really high-end, extremely durable umbrella. It's an expensive product.
Okay.
If you just hand it to me, I'm going to take it, feel the weight of it, and my internal monologue is immediately going to start looking for reasons to say no.
Right, you're trying to justify not spending the money.
Exactly. I'm going to think, wow, this feels really heavy. I don't want to carry this around in my briefcase all day.
And at that point, the objection is fully formed in your mind. If you voice it, if you say out loud, this is too heavy, the salesperson is now forced to play defense.
Yeah, they have to argue with me. They have to tell me why my perception is wrong.
And nobody likes being told their perception is wrong. You've taken an adversarial position. It's a debate now.
But if you use the Jedi mind trick, the dynamic completely flips. You hand me the umbrella, and before my brain can even process the weight, you say something.
I say. Now, when you first hold this, you are probably going to notice it feels a bit heavy.
That's actually because it's built with a solid carbon fiber frame that won't snap in a hurricane, unlike those cheap aluminum ones that turn inside out.
The difference in that interaction is profound. By voicing the objection first, you aren't defending your product. You are validating the customer's experience.
You are telling them, I see you, I understand how your brain works, and your concerns are entirely rational.
It builds instant credibility because you aren't hiding the flaw. You are reframing it as a feature before they can weaponize it against you.
It transforms the whole dynamic from a combative debate into like a guided realization.
Exactly. So for you listening, how do you apply this tomorrow morning?
All right, let's make it practical.
Whenever you are pitching a product, writing a sales sequence, or even just onboarding a new client, sit down and genuinely interrogate the interaction.
Ask yourself, what are they rolling their eyes at? What are they doubting? What is the main reason they are going to say no?
Write those doubts down and voice them first. Tell your audience, I know you're probably thinking this sounds too good to be true, or you might think this requires too much time.
Addressing the elephant in the room shrinks the elephant.
It really does.
And what's so brilliant about this section of the source material is how deeply meta it is.
Oh, I love this part.
Tammi teaches this concept of preempting objections by actively deploying it against the reader in that very paragraph.
She essentially pauses the book to say, I know you are about to roll your eyes at all this philosophy stuff I'm about to teach you.
She predicts the reader's exact internal monologue.
She narrows their bubbling, unvoiced objections down to two very specific camps, and then, in just a wonderful display of authority, she calls both of those objections bollocks.
It's jarring, but it snaps you to attention. So let's dissect what those two specific objections actually are, because they represent universal traps that almost every creator falls into.
The first one she tackles is what we can call the consumer bias trap.
The consumer bias trap. Okay, what does that look like?
This is the objection where the creator reads about a high engagement marketing strategy and immediately thinks, I would never subscribe to a list like the one you're describing. I would unsubscribe immediately if someone did that to me.
Yes, I hate getting weekly emails. I hate automated welcome sequences. I hate when people share personal stories or run polls in their newsletters.
Therefore, because I hate it, I will never subject my audience to it.
And this leads to what Tammi considers her golden rule. She actually jokes that she might get this tattooed on herself because it is the single most vital concept for a business owner to internalize.
And that rule is, do not make business decisions based on your own consumer behavior.
Think about the pure logic of this. Let's say you run a thriving, highly authentic Italian restaurant. People literally line up down the block for your food.
Okay.
But you, the owner, personally suffer from severe heartburn whenever you eat garlic. You just can't stand it.
Right.
Do you go into your commercial kitchen and ban all garlic from the premises?
Only if you want to go out of business. Because
Well.
you aren't cooking for yourself. You are cooking for people who specifically walked in the door because the sign outside promised them authentic, garlic-heavy Italian food.
Yet we do this with our marketing all the time. We ban the garlic.
We do. And the text actually calls out a specific persona for this. The newsletter-hating edgelord.
The edgelord, that's such a great term for it.
The edgelord is that creator sitting in the back of the class with their arms crossed, claiming that they are completely immune to marketing.
They believe that because they analyze the mechanics of the industry, they're somehow above it.
Right. They view welcome sequences as manipulative, frequent emails as spammy, and personal anecdotes as, deeply unprofessional.
We all have that inner edgelord, don't we? The part of our brain that wants to be too cool for traditional marketing.
Oh, for sure. But the reality is, your audience is not you. You are viewing newsletters through the highly cynical, burned-out prism of a creator.
Right. You dissect subject lines, you analyze funnel structures, you look at the matrix of the email.
But your readers, your true fans, they are viewing your newsletter through the prism of fandom.
They aren't analyzing your funnel.
Heh.
They are just excited to hear from a creator they admire.
The things that turn you off, like sending an email twice a week, sharing a picture of your cat, or doing a cover reveal, are very likely the exact things your specific audience absolutely devours.
So the practical takeaway here is that you must ruthlessly divorce your personal biases from your business strategy.
Yes.
Ruthlessly.
But if we can't trust our own feelings, if our gut instinct about what is annoying is fundamentally broken, what do we trust? How do we know what the audience actually wants?
You replace your feelings with data. You let the metrics dictate the truth.
The A-B split test. The A-B split test is the ultimate cure for the consumer bias trap.
It really is.
You use testing to let the audience's clicks and open rates tell you what they want. Let's say you have a deeply held belief that sending a picture of your dog in a business newsletter is, unprofessional and will cause mass unsubscribes.
Okay, so you split your list. Half gets the purely professional text email. Half gets the exact same email but with the dog picture at the bottom.
And if the data comes back and shows that the dog email got double the open rate, triple the replies, and higher click-throughs on your links,
The data wins.
the data always wins. The audience has spoken. Your personal pet peeve about professionalism is completely irrelevant to their enjoyment.
You have to surrender your ego to the metrics.
Mhm.
If they want the garlic, you have to give them the garlic, even if it gives you heartburn.
Perfectly said. Which brings us to the second objection she preempts, and this one is perhaps even more pervasive than the consumer bias.
It's the classic imposter syndrome trap.
Ooh, this one runs deep. This is the quiet, insidious voice in a creator's head that says, I'm just an indie author, or I'm just a small business owner working out of my garage.
I'm not a Fortune 500 company.
Right. People aren't actually interested in what I have to say. They just gave me their email for the 10% discount code, and now they want me to leave them alone.
The text completely and utterly rejects this premise.
It does not entertain it for a second.
And it replaces that self-deprecating identity with a very specific, elevated identity. To the person who handed over their email address, you are a rock star.
Now, calling yourself a rock star feels like a massive, almost uncomfortable leap for someone sitting at their kitchen table in sweatpants trying to figure out how to format a newsletter.
It feels arrogant, doesn't it? It feels like you're inflating your own importance.
It feels that way until you understand the modern economy of attention. We have to look at the reality of the digital landscape today.
Which is incredibly noisy.
Beyond noisy. An inbox is a highly guarded, deeply personal fortress. People are bombarded with thousands of pieces of digital noise a day. Social media algorithms, targeted ads, spam.
As a result, consumers are fiercely protective of who they allow into their primary inbox.
Giving out your real email address today feels like giving out your home address. You don't do it lightly.
You certainly don't do it for someone you don't care about.
Exactly. So if a stranger freely gives you their email address, if they type it into your form, hit submit, and then go to their inbox to click the double opt-in confirmation.
That's a lot of steps.
It is. It is the digital equivalent of them waiting in line in the rain to get a VIP backstage pass. People do not invite potential spam to their lives out of politeness.
No, they don't.
They gave you that access because they already like your work. They are heavily predisposed to care about what you have to say.
So when you sit down at your keyboard to write an email, and that familiar waves of imposter syndrome washes over you, when you feel like you have absolutely nothing of value to say and that you are just being a nuisance, you need to repeat the mantra from the text.
I am a rock star.
You have to treat your list not as a burden, not as a chore to check off your weekly task list, but as a room full of your absolute biggest fans waiting for the lights to go down and the show to start.
You have to step up to the microphone. You cannot hide behind the curtain.
But I want to push back on the application of this, because there is a fine line here, right? Does embracing this rock star persona mean we are supposed to act arrogant?
I'm glad you asked that because no, not at all.
Because, are we supposed to strut around our newsletters acting like untouchable celebrities talking down to our audience? Because that feels entirely contrary to the goal of building a genuine, authentic connection.
That is a vital distinction to make. Embracing the rock star mentality is not about feeding your ego. It's not about reading manifestation books and acting like a diva.
Okay, so what is it about?
It is about recognizing the sheer objective value of the transaction that just occurred between you and the subscriber.
The transaction being the exchange of their attention for your presence.
Yes, exactly. You must respect the fact that the subscriber just handed you their most precious commodity, their focus.
Right.
They want you, not a watered-down, apologetic, purely corporate version of you. They want the specific human being who created the art or the product or the service that they liked enough to subscribe to in the first place.
If you hide behind sparse, boring, purely transactional emails because you are afraid of being annoying, you are actually insulting their choice.
You really are.
You are basically telling them they made a mistake in giving you VIP access. Like, they bought a ticket to the backstage meet and greet. They're standing in the room waiting for you, and you refuse to come out of your dressing room because you think you aren't cool enough.
That's exactly it. You are canceling the show they literally asked to see. You don't have to be arrogant, but you absolutely must be present. You must be authentic, and you must be confident in the value you provide.
If they gave you the email, the debate over whether you are worth their time is already over.
They decided you are. Your only job now is to deliver.
Let's bring all these threads together. If we synthesize everything we've covered in this deep dive down to the core insight, what is the soul of this material?
I think it comes down to this. A truly successful, highly engaged mailing list is never, ever built on software tricks.
It's not built on finding the perfect subject line hack.
And it certainly isn't built on projecting your own neuroses and self-doubt onto your audience.
It is built on a profound psychological shift. Your mailing list is a VIP club, and you are the headliner.
By accurately diagnosing exactly where you are failing right now, whether you are paralyzed outside the building, sitting in an empty gym, or staring at a roster of ghosts.
By entirely abandoning the obsession with button-pushing tech as a psychological shield.
By anticipating your audience's objections before they arise.
By ruthlessly ignoring your own consumer biases about what is annoying.
And by fully, unapologetically embracing your status as a rock star to the people who chose to follow you.
You lay the indestructible foundation for a mobilized, rapidly engaged community.
It is the fundamental difference between managing a database and leading a fan base.
I want to leave you with a final provocative thought to mull over as you go about your day. Think about the last email you sent to your list or the first one you are planning to send.
Okay, got it.
If you truly, deeply accepted the reality that every single person on that list was a rabid fan waiting for backstage access, how would the very first sentence of your next email change?
I can guarantee it wouldn't start with an apology for taking up their time.
Definitely not. Now that you've embraced your inner rock star and shattered the illusion that you are your own reader, how do you actually get those fans through the front door? Next time, we'll dive into the exact reasons why you must own the venue and the hidden dangers of building your entire business on someone else's land.
What if the audience you've spent years building, the community you've nurtured every single day, could just be completely wiped out in a single click?
And completely without you having any say in it.
Right, without any say at all. I mean, think back to 2018. Thousands of independent creators and businesses literally woke up to find their Facebook pages functionally dead overnight.
Yeah, just completely dead because of an algorithm tweak.
Exactly. Millions of dollars in revenue just vanished. Vibrant communities were silenced, all because of a change in code at a headquarters thousands of miles away. It's this massive vulnerability that lives right at the core of the modern internet.
It really is. Honestly, it is the single greatest structural flaw in how we build businesses online today. People pour their absolute lifeblood into constructing these massive digital empires, and they're entirely oblivious to the fact that they're building on a fault line.
Because the foundational infrastructure just doesn't belong to them.
Right. When the tectonic plates of these platform algorithms shift, the destruction isn't just a possibility. It is an inevitability. We see it constantly. Yet, the prevailing wisdom still pushes creators toward the exact platforms designed to eventually lock them out of their own audiences.
Which is terrifying. But today, we are exploring the antidote to that vulnerability. We are doing a deep dive into the core philosophy from Tammi Labrecque's newsletter Ninja, focusing specifically on the chapter titled, Why You Need a Mailing List.
Yeah, it's such a crucial chapter.
It really is. So today you are going to learn the underlying mechanics of why relying on social media is a structural trap and why a private email list acts as the ultimate safeguard for your business.
We'll be breaking down the advanced psychology of why the inbox commands such unparalleled attention and conversion, too.
Exactly, which is basically the missing puzzle piece for any entrepreneur trying to bulletproof their audience against, corporate whims.
And Labrecque brings this heavily battle-tested perspective here. I mean, she's been operating in the indie publishing space since around 2014, so she has witnessed literally every platform trend rise and fall.
Oh, for sure.
She has seen the mass migrations from organic Facebook reach to paid ads, the chaos of shifting retail algorithms, the constant churn of the attention economy, all of it.
And through all of that volatility, the one constant stable pillar for her has been the direct email relationship.
Yes. Her argument isn't just about marketing. It's really about risk mitigation and asset ownership.
So let's get straight to the resistance, because anyone operating online today has definitely heard the mandate, right? Build a list.
Oh, yeah. It's practically tattooed on the forehead of every business consultant out there.
Exactly. Yet, Labrecque observes that people fight this relentlessly. They actively choose the fragile platforms over the stable one. And she categorizes this resistance into 4 distinct myths. The first one being the perceived labor barrier.
Right. The idea that building and maintaining a list is simply, quote unquote, too much work.
Too much work. But the perception of labor is heavily distorted here, right?
Oh, entirely. When a creator looks at email, they see configuration. They see setting up a domain, choosing a service provider, navigating automation workflows.
Just staring at a blank screen, wondering what on earth to write.
Yeah, it feels heavy. It feels static. But contrast that with social media, which is explicitly designed for frictionless publishing.
You just have a thought, you type a sentence, hit send.
Boom. And you get a dopamine hit in the form of a like or a retweet 3 seconds later. Social media masks the labor with this immediate biological reward.
I mean, I feel that friction personally. Email feels like this 1990s technology that requires an instruction manual.
Right. It's not as flashy.
No, not at all. When you are already exhausted from running a business, the idea of drafting a long-form newsletter feels like writing a term paper.
Whereas posting a photo to Instagram feels like taking a coffee break.
Totally. But the trap there, as she points out, is the difference between setup labor and maintenance labor.
That distinction is everything. Labrecque's philosophy really aims to expose that illusion. Yes, the foundational setup of an email ecosystem, creating the lead magnets, writing the onboarding sequences, configuring the tags. It is a front-loaded effort.
You actually have to sit down and think strategically.
You do. But once that architecture is in place, it works asynchronously. It works for you in the background.
Well, social media is basically an insatiable beast.
An absolute beast. Its algorithms demand constant, daily, sometimes hourly feeding just to maintain a baseline of visibility. The moment you stop feeding the feed, you cease to exist in the minds of your audience.
Wow, yeah. Which is a far more exhausting form of labor when you really think about it.
It's the labor of a treadmill that never ever stops versus the labor of building a machine that eventually just runs on its own.
So we essentially trade a week of focused, strategic setup for years of chaotic algorithmic servitude.
Just because the servitude offers a quicker dopamine hit.
That makes complete sense psychologically. And I think it feeds directly into the second massive point of resistance she identifies.
The follower count myth.
Yes. People look at their follower counts and say, well, I am already doing the work on social media. I have a website. I can just get by with Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, or TikTok. Because that's where the people actually are.
And Labrecque's counter to this is absolute. She just says, no, you can't.
Just flat out no.
Right. And to understand why, we really have to look at the mechanics of platform economics. She isn't suggesting these platforms are useless, to be fair.
No, they are exceptional top-of-funnel discovery engines.
Exactly. But using them as your primary foundation completely ignores how those companies actually generate revenue. Social platforms do not exist to connect you with your audience.
They exist to sell your audience's attention to advertisers.
Bingo.
Okay, let's push on this a bit, because if I'm a creator who has spent, say, 5 years grinding to build an audience of 200,000 Twitter followers, I'm looking at that number thinking I have achieved the goal.
You're thinking you made it.
Right. I have a massive crowd, so why on earth would I want to start from absolute zero with an empty email database when I already have a megaphone pointing at 200,000 people?
Well, because that megaphone is broken, and you don't actually hold the volume dial.
Oh, that's a great way to put it.
Having 200,000 followers does not mean you can speak to 200,000 people. It just means you have 200,000 people who have indicated to the platform that they might be interested in your content.
And then the platform's algorithm acts as the gatekeeper.
Exactly. Think about it. In 2012, if you posted to a Facebook business page, a significant percentage of your followers actually saw it. The feed was largely chronological back then.
Right, it was just a timeline.
But today, organic reach on many of these platforms hovers around 1 or maybe 2%.
Yeah.
They throttle the organic reach intentionally.
They choke the reach so that if I actually want my 200,000 followers to see my new announcement, I literally have to pay the platform to boost the post.
Yes. You are essentially being charged a ransom to speak to the exact people who explicitly asked to hear from you.
That is insane when you frame it like that.
But that is the exact business model. It is a toll booth placed right between you and your audience. You do not own those followers. You are merely renting access to them.
And the landlord can raise the rent at any time.
Anytime they want. When you build on a rented platform, your entire business model is subject to their quarterly earnings reports. If they need to boost their ad revenue, your organic reach drops.
Which is why getting by on social media is such a dangerous myth. You are building equity for a tech giant, not for your own business.
Exactly.
Okay, that perfectly frames the danger of social media. But what about platforms that are explicitly designed for commerce? Like, Labrecque points out a third myth that I think traps a lot of really savvy people, particularly authors and product creators.
The retailer myth.
Yeah, they think, well, social media is fluffy, but my followers on Amazon or BookBub or Shopify, those are solid. Retailer follows are enough.
Because if a customer follows you on Amazon, Amazon sends them an email the second you launch a new product.
Right. It feels like the ultimate automated conversion machine. You don't even have to write the email.
It feels incredibly efficient because the retailer is doing all the heavy lifting. But it masks a fatal flaw in the architecture of your business.
What's the flaw?
Labrecque points out the core issue brilliantly here. She says, yes, people can follow you there, and yes, the retailer might notify them. but you have absolutely no idea who those people are.
Oh, wow. Yeah, you're operating completely blindfolded.
Completely. You have a numerical metric on a dashboard. Yeah. Maybe it says you have 5,000 followers, but you have no direct line of communication to any single individual in that entire group.
I see the vulnerability there. Amazon is basically operating as an intermediary. They are hoarding the customer data.
Yes, hoarding is the perfect word.
I don't have their names, their email preferences, their purchase history outside of my specific product. I just have this anonymized aggregate number.
And the concept at play here is what we call the walled garden. Tech and retail giants build these walled gardens specifically to trap data?
Because data is the most valuable commodity in the modern economy.
Without a doubt. Amazon, Apple, Google, they absolutely do not want creators to have a direct relationship with the consumer because whoever owns the relationship controls the lifetime value of that customer.
Right. If Amazon gives you the customer's email address, you might just email them directly next time.
And sell them a product from your own website, which cuts Amazon out of their 30% fee.
So they will never, ever give you that data.
Never.
So if Amazon decides tomorrow to change how their follower notifications work, like maybe they decide it's causing too much inbox fatigue, so they just batch them into one weekly digest, or they just kill the feature entirely, I have zero recourse.
Fine.
I can't export a CSV file of my 5,000 Amazon followers and just email them myself. I am entirely dependent on their proprietary notification system.
You are basically a passenger in a car where you don't even have access to the steering wheel. Now, compare that architecture to a private email list.
It's night and day.
It really is. With an email database, you dictate the terms. You control the sign-up forms, which means you decide exactly what data to collect: names, locations, specific interests.
You set the parameters and the specifications of how and when you communicate.
Most importantly, that database is a portable asset. It lives on your hard drive.
Right. If your email service provider suddenly raises their prices or changes their policies, you just export your CSV file.
And you import it into a competitor software. You maintain absolute continuity of business. That portability is really the ultimate defense against platform volatility.
That is so powerful. Which brings us to the fourth myth, which honestly might be the most stubborn one of all.
Oh, I know which one you're talking about.
Right. People, especially younger creators or those who are just obsessed with the bleeding edge of tech, they love to declare that, well, no one does email anymore.
Yeah, they view it as a relic.
Like it's just this formal corporate tool that has been entirely replaced by Discord, Slack, DMs, and TikTok.
It is a really persistent narrative, but it is fundamentally disconnected from the reality of global digital infrastructure.
So what's Labrecque's counter to this?
Her counter is swift and completely data-backed. She just said, yes, they do. Email is not dead. It is simply invisible because it is ubiquitous.
It has basically become the foundational passport of the internet.
Exactly. Think about it. You cannot create a TikTok account, open a bank account, buy a house, or even order a pizza without an email address.
When you put it like that, email really is the connective tissue of the entire digital economy. Social platforms are destinations, but email is the protocol that gets you into those destinations.
It's the difference between a trendy nightclub and the highway system itself.
Oh, I love that analogy.
Right. The nightclub might close down in 2 years when it stops being cool, but the highway system remains.
That is the precise distinction. Because email is built on open protocols, right? Like SMTP and IMP. Nobody really owns email in the way that Mark Zuckerberg owns Facebook.
Exactly. It is a decentralized standard. And because it is essential for transactional communications, receipts, password resets, official correspondence, people are literally forced to check it.
The data continually shows that email remains the most direct, widely adopted, and reliable form of digital communication on the planet.
The fact that it isn't flashy is exactly why it is so powerful. It isn't subject to the hype cycles of social media.
Right. So if we synthesize this entire first section into a single undeniable truth for the listener, it really is a warning about asset allocation.
Yes, do not settle for rented access to your audience.
Having 1 million followers on a platform you do not control is a liability masquerading as an asset. You need a database that belongs entirely to you, completely isolated from social media algorithms, retailer dashboards, and corporate walled gardens.
And, the phrase rented access is actually the perfect segue into Labrecque's next major concept. She takes this abstract idea of platform vulnerability and gives it this devastating visceral name.
Oh, I know this part.
She refers to building your primary audience on these platforms as digital sharecropping.
Digital sharecropping. That is an incredibly heavy, loaded term. It evokes a very specific, somewhat dark historical power dynamic.
It does, and she uses it intentionally to highlight the severity of the economic imbalance here. Historically, sharecropping was a system where a farmer worked a piece of land owned by someone else.
Right. The farmer took on all the physical labor, all the risk of the harvest, and all the day-to-day stress.
But the landowner took the lion's share of the profits simply because they held the deed to the dirt.
And in the digital age, tech conglomerates have replicated this model flawlessly.
Flawlessly. Think about what it actually means to build a business exclusively on Facebook or YouTube or Instagram.
You are putting in all the creative labor.
All of it. You are writing the posts, filming the videos, engaging with the comments, building the entire community culture. You are doing all the farming.
But the platform owns the land. They monetize your labor by wrapping it in advertisements, and they keep the vast majority of the revenue.
And worse, they can evict you without cause or warning at any time. If your primary interaction with your audience happens on a platform owned by a tech giant, you are toiling to produce an environment that ultimately enriches them, not you.
You might carve out a subsistence living, right? Like you might get brand deals or ad revenue shares or a burst of sales.
Sure, but you are living entirely at their mercy.
It makes me think of putting your entire business inside a massive, glamorous casino.
Okay, I like where this is going.
You build this beautiful storefront right on the casino floor. You spend thousands of hours making your shop look absolutely perfect, and you attract a huge crowd of loyal customers who come to the casino just to see you. You feel incredibly successful.
But the casino dictates the layout.
Exactly. They control the lighting, they control the foot traffic, and the moment they decide your shop isn't generating enough secondary gambling revenue for them, they can just move your storefront to a dark back alley next to the dumpsters.
Or simply revoke your lease and throw you out on the street.
Because you don't own the dirt beneath your feet.
That casino analogy illustrates the mechanism perfectly. The algorithm is basically the casino floor manager. It's constantly rearranging the layout to maximize the house's profit, not your foot traffic.
Right.
Labrecque argues forcefully that you will never truly own a durable, resilient asset if you continually condition your audience to engage with you on someone else's property.
Your email list is the only property where you actually hold the deed.
Yes. If you nurture that list, it becomes this incredibly agile asset that can be leveraged swiftly when the casino changes its rules or when disaster strikes.
And disaster is not a theoretical concept here. It's not just some paranoid thought experiment about algorithms. Labrecque actually shares a deeply personal, painful anecdote in this chapter that moves this from abstract business theory into raw human experience.
It is a really striking inclusion in the text because she admits she used to share this exact warning with upwards of 40 students in her classes as just a hypothetical danger, long before she experienced the reality of it herself.
Which just proves that knowing the theory doesn't protect you if you don't actually implement the safeguard.
Exactly. So the story takes place in her life as a romance author, and she is very open about how much she loves Facebook for that specific genre.
Oh yeah, the culture there is perfect for romance readers. They love to form these tight-knit communities, swap hyper-specific book recommendations, and just engage in long, passionate discussions.
It's a thriving ecosystem. So she partnered with a fellow author, someone she considered a BFF, a best friend in the industry, and they co-founded a Facebook reader group.
They were both administrators, essentially building this digital clubhouse together.
And by all metrics of digital sharecropping, their harvest was incredibly successful. The group grew to just over 1,800 passionate, highly engaged members.
Labrecque describes it as the absolute best, most fun, most responsive reader group on Facebook.
They weren't just broadcasting marketing messages, they were facilitating a genuine community.
And the psychological investment in a group like that is massive. You know the members' names, you know their reading habits, you spend hours a day moderating and participating.
The emotional equity she had built in that group was immense. And then, well, the casino changed the locks.
But it wasn't a faceless algorithm this time, was it?
No, it was a human vulnerability inherent to the platform's architecture. She and her co-author had what she perceived to be a minor disagreement.
Just a small argument.
Right. But because the platform grants absolute binary power to administrators, her co-admin simply clicked a button and removed her from the group.
Wow. Zero warning. Zero due process.
The suddenness of it is what makes it so chilling. I mean, one moment, she is the co-mayor of a thriving town of 1,800 superfans. The next millisecond, she is standing outside a locked gate, entirely cut off.
1,800 highly engaged fans that she had spent countless hours cultivating over months or even years just instantly vaporized from her professional life.
It's awful.
The sinking feeling in her stomach must have been suffocating, because if you think about the mechanics of trying to recover from that on social media, it is an absolute nightmare.
It is a mechanical impossibility to recover efficiently without an external asset. If she had only relied on that Facebook group, her business would have suffered a devastating blow.
To try and win them back on the platform, she would have had to post on her public author page.
Which is subject to the very algorithmic throttling we discussed earlier.
She would be standing outside the casino with a cardboard sign, screaming into the void of the newsfeed, just desperately hoping that a fraction of those 1,800 lost fans happened to be scrolling past at the exact second the algorithm decided to show her post.
Amidst a sea of political arguments, targeted ads, and viral videos.
Exactly. And worse, if she tried to post a link saying, "Hey, join my new group," the algorithm would actively suppress it, because social platforms penalize posts that try to direct traffic to new, unestablished pages.
It's a rigged game.
Eh.
It really would have been a futile effort. But the narrative doesn't end in tragedy, because Labrecque had built the escape pod.
She had her mailing list.
She bypassed the casino entirely. She went to her computer, opened her email software, and drafted a message directly to her database explaining what happened.
And within just a few days, she had funneled hundreds of readers into a brand new, secure Facebook group that she controlled entirely.
Now, she is pragmatic about the results. She acknowledges that she didn't get all 1,800 back immediately. It was a far cry from the original peak.
But she understood the trajectory of audience building. She knew that the original 1,800 didn't appear by magic. They were accumulated over time.
The mailing list provided the critical mass necessary to restart the engine without having to start from absolute zero. It saved the community from total dissolution.
The mechanism of rescue here is fascinating. The mailing list acts as an insurance policy that exists completely outside the jurisdiction of the platform where the disaster occurred.
It didn't matter what Facebook's algorithm was doing that day. It didn't matter what the rogue co-admin did.
Her email list was this encrypted, direct line to her people that literally no one could intercept or block.
The practical mandate for anyone listening is starkly clear. Build your community on a platform you actually own.
Engage in digital sharecropping. If you must use the social media platforms for discovery, harvest the attention they offer.
But you must systematically and aggressively funnel that attention back to your own database. Algorithms will inevitably change. Accounts get hacked or erroneously banned by automated moderation bots. Partners go rogue.
Right, and when those structural failures happen, your survival depends entirely on your ability to leverage a portable, owned asset to relocate your community.
Exactly. Which brings us to a critical pivot in the conversation. Let's assume you, the listener, are fully convinced. You understand the dangers of digital sharecropping. You respect the fragility of algorithms and the necessity of owning your data.
Okay, yes. Even if we accept all of that defensive logic, there is still an offensive question to answer, right? The question of performance.
Right.
Does an email actually work better than a social media post when you want someone to take action?
It is the ultimate litmus test for any marketing channel. And Labrecque's text is unequivocal on this point. Email converts better than social media. Period.
Period.
The data across almost every industry supports this conclusion.
And just to be clear, by convert, we are talking about the friction of getting the audience to perform a specific action, like clicking a link to buy a book, registering for a webinar, filling out a survey.
Taking them from passive consumption to active participation. And from a purely quantitative standpoint, the measurable reasons are stark. First, despite the hype around new platforms, global email penetration is higher than any single social network.
Everyone has an email address.
Second, behavioral data shows people check their email first thing in the morning, and they check it more frequently throughout the day.
But third, and I think most crucially, consumer surveys repeatedly demonstrate that people actually prefer to receive promotional and sales material in their email rather than in their social feeds. I have to stop and interrogate that third point because, honestly, it feels entirely counterintuitive to the modern digital experience.
How so?
My inbox is an absolute disaster zone. It is a chaotic mess of spam, retail newsletters, political fundraising, and work emergencies. It is a high-stress environment.
Oh, totally.
So the idea that a human being actively prefers to be sold to in that environment rather than viewing a highly produced, aesthetically pleasing, clever video on Instagram feels totally backwards. Why does a text-based email drive higher conversion than a rich media social post?
It really is a paradox if you only look at the surface-level clutter of the inbox. But Labrecque dives underneath that surface to explore two highly compelling psychological frameworks that explain the mechanics of this behavior.
Okay, let's hear them.
The first framework centers around the psychology of consent, which she calls the buy-in.
The buy-in. Walk me through the mechanics of that, because if the inbox is a disaster zone, how does buy-in actually cut through the noise?
You have to analyze the friction required to gain access to that space. 10 or 15 years ago, people handed out their email addresses freely.
Sure, to anyone who asked.
Today, because our inboxes are so overwhelmed, we fiercely guard them. We have secondary junk email addresses specifically for things we don't really care about.
Yep, the burner email.
Exactly. So when a consumer encounters your sign-up form, looks at your offer, and makes the deliberate physical action to type their primary email address into that box, they are executing a high-friction transaction.
They are paying a psychological toll.
Precisely. Handing over that data is an incredibly strong signal of intent. It is a proactive, conscious choice to grant you access to a guarded space.
And because they have made that conscious choice, human psychology dictates that they are now primed to justify that choice.
Yes. They are mathematically and behaviorally predisposed to open your email and view it positively, because ignoring it would mean acknowledging they made a mistake by subscribing in the first place. They gave you pre-approved buy-in.
It is the difference between interruption marketing and permission marketing. If I'm scrolling TikTok, I am there to be entertained by a chaotic stream of random dopamine hits.
Right.
If a video of someone pitching a mastermind course pops into my feed, they are interrupting my entertainment. Even if the video is brilliant, I view it as an intruder. But if I specifically gave that creator my email address, I literally invited them into my house.
That distinction is paramount. You ask them to be there. Labrecque points out the immense power of honoring that invitation.
How do you honor it?
If you recognize that they have given you this rare pre-approved access, and you respond by consistently delivering content that is genuinely valuable, irresistible, or entertaining, the engagement rates become almost guaranteed.
Because the buy-in creates a baseline of trust that a social media algorithm, which forces content onto unwilling viewers, can never replicate.
Exactly.
I accept the power of permission, but I still struggle with the environment itself. Even if I invited them in, my inbox is still noisy. If I get an email from a creator I love, it is sitting right next to an email from my boss and a discount code from a shoe store.
Which leads to the second psychological framework Labrecque introduces to explain why email dominates conversion.
Okay, what's the second framework?
She calls the email experience the distraction-free zone. To understand why this matters, we have to contrast the UI, the user interface of social media, with the UI of an email client.
Let's dissect that. If I open Instagram or Twitter, the entire user interface is designed like a slot machine. It is built on the psychological principle of variable rewards.
Yes, the infinite scroll.
As I scroll, the platform bombards my senses. I see a high-definition photo, followed immediately by an auto-playing video with sound, followed by a controversial text post, flanked by flashing banner ads.
All while a little red notification badge at the top of the screen screams for your attention.
It is designed to fracture my focus into 1,000 tiny pieces so I stay on the app longer.
It is an environment of profound sensory overload and intense competition. If you, as a creator, make a brilliant, thoughtful offer to your audience on a social feed, your message is violently competing with a friend's wedding photos, breaking geopolitical news, and highly optimized multi-million-dollar ad campaigns.
All at the same time.
Your audience's cognitive bandwidth is completely maxed out before they even read your first sentence.
And crucially, the interface demands that they keep moving. The infinite scroll physically trains the brain to discard the current piece of information and search at the next one. The thumb is always hovering, ready to flick away.
Right. Now contrast that chaotic casino floor with the mechanics of opening an email. Yes, the inbox itself is a cluttered list of subject lines, but what happens the very moment the user clicks on your specific email?
The environment completely shifts.
Exactly. The transition is profound. When they click open, the feed disappears. The flashing ads vanish. The infinite scroll stops.
The interface becomes singular and linear.
For the length of time it takes to read that message, they are focused entirely on you. You have pulled them out of Times Square and placed them into a quiet, private room.
It's basically a sensory deprivation tank compared to social media. When I open an email, my brain switches from scanning for dopamine mode into reading and evaluating mode. I'm looking at text on a screen, usually static images, and I have to linearly process the information from top to bottom.
That focused, single-threaded attention is the holy grail of conversion. You have the opportunity to articulate a nuanced argument, tell a compelling story, or make a detailed pitch without the immediate threat of a cat video auto-playing underneath your paragraph.
Because the environment allows for deeper cognitive processing, the reader is far more likely to absorb the value of your offer and take the deliberate action of clicking a link.
The synergy between these two psychological frameworks is incredibly potent. You combine the buy-in, the fact that they proactively invited you into their life, with the distraction-free zone, an environment that forces single-threaded focus.
When you stack high intent on top of undivided attention, you create a conversion engine that simply cannot be replicated by shouting into the algorithmic void of a social media feed.
The practical mandate derived from this psychology is how you must treat the inbox. It is a privileged environment.
Because you have secured their undivided attention and their pre-approved consent, you actually carry a heavy burden of responsibility.
You absolutely do. You must offer them something genuinely irresistible to read or engage with. If you abuse that quiet, private room by shouting at them with low-effort spam or relentless, valueless pitches, they will exercise their ultimate power.
They will hit unsubscribe and revoke your access permanently. So if we pull the lens all the way back and synthesize the entire mechanical and psychological architecture Labrecque has laid out in this chapter, it really coalesces into one incredibly clear, unifying philosophy.
Ownership.
The soul of your business, its true security, its resilience against disaster, and its actual power to drive human behavior lies entirely in ownership. A mailing list is not merely a marketing tool on a checklist.
It is a structural necessity. It is the only direct, undistracted, and unstealable line of communication you will ever have with the people who matter most to your business. It is about migrating from a mindset of digital sharecropping to a mindset of digital sovereignty. You are taking control of your destiny as a creator, an author, or an entrepreneur.
You are refusing to leave the survival of your community in the hands of opaque algorithms, corporate walled gardens, or the volatile whims of digital landlords. Ownership is the only true security.
Without a doubt.
I want to leave you, the listener, with a final provocative thought to process as you evaluate your own digital footprint. Think about your own deeply ingrained consumer habits for a second. Think about the friction we discussed.
A great exercise.
When you finally, reluctantly hand over your primary email address to a creator after ignoring a dozen pop-ups and endless social media posts, aren't you secretly making a silent pact with them? Aren't you essentially saying, okay, you won, I'm letting you in, I'm giving you my undivided attention? Now prove to me that you are worth it.
That's exactly what you're saying.
Now that we have dismantled the myths, exposed the dangers of sharecropping, and proved exactly why you need this list to survive the modern internet, a massive glaring question remains. What exactly are you supposed to do with this list once you actually have it? Next time on The Deep Dive, we will explore a radical philosophy that completely flips the script on what a mailing list is actually for, moving from theory into aggressive, actionable strategy.
If all you are using your mailing list for is selling your product, you're doing everything entirely wrong.
It creates this immediate friction in the mind, doesn't it?
Yeah, it really does.
I mean, we are so conditioned to view an email list as a digital cash register, but treating it that way is, well, it's precisely what breaks the whole mechanism.
Right. And have you ever poured your absolute heart into building a massive following on social media, only to realize in a cold sweat that you don't actually own your audience?
Oh, that is such a universal fear right now.
You spend months or maybe even years curating the perfect feed, reverse engineering the algorithm, replying to every single comment, and building up this colossal subscriber count.
Right, chasing that dopamine hit when the numbers go up.
Exactly. And then some engineer in Silicon Valley tweaks a few lines of code, or the platform's rules change, and overnight, literally overnight, you are completely invisible to the very people who explicitly ask to hear from you.
That tension right there, that is the defining economic anxiety of the modern creator.
Absolutely.
What we are exploring today is going to completely dismantle the conventional wisdom surrounding self-promotion. We're shifting away from that exhausting transactional cycle of, begging an algorithm for visibility.
Yeah, we are moving toward the bedrock philosophy of long-term audience building. We are looking at the core strategies of building an engaged mailing list, specifically drawing from Chapter 3 of our source material, which is titled my mailing list philosophy.
It's such a crucial chapter.
It really is. So in this deep dive, you are going to learn why owning your audience through a mailing list is the only true security in any modern business. And you'll see how shifting your philosophy from selling a product to selling yourself changes the entire trajectory of your career.
It really changes everything.
Yeah, and this matters for anyone interested in business, entrepreneurship, or just creative work in general, because it is the ultimate shortcut to building an army of superfans who will follow you anywhere, independent of, whatever tech trend happens to be dominating the week.
The author lays out a framework here that challenges that really pervasive, kind of low-effort approach of simply blasting links into the void and hoping for a conversion.
Right, the buy my book or buy my course spam.
Exactly. It requires a fundamental rewiring of how we perceive value and attention and, honestly, ownership on the internet.
Which means we need to confront the biggest trap first. The author highlights this incredibly common myth, the belief that building an email list is just too tedious, or I think even more dangerously, the assumption that cultivating a massive following on Facebook, X, Instagram, or TikTok is a sufficient business model on its own.
Right, because when you look at that dashboard and see 100,000 followers, your brain just floods with dopamine.
It feels like security.
It does, it feels safe. But the source material introduces a concept to shatter that illusion entirely, and it's called digital sharecropping.
Digital sharecropping, let's break that down.
Yeah, to really grasp the danger here, we have to look at the history of Web 2.0 centralization. Think about the historical agricultural definition of sharecropping.
Yeah.
You are a farmer toiling on someone else's land. You plant the seeds, you tend the crops, you do all the grueling labor to produce value.
But you don't own the dirt.
Exactly. The landlord owns the property, they control the access, and they reap the vast majority of the profit. In the digital economy, when you build your primary audience on a social platform, you are essentially functioning as an unpaid employee for a tech giant.
Wow. Yeah, that is a stark way to put it, but it's true.
You are generating the content, the crops, so to speak, that keeps users glued to their screens so the platform can serve them ads, but you do not own that digital land.
You are building a skyscraper on a rented foundation.
Perfectly said.
A great way to visualize this, I think, is to imagine social media platforms as these massive, glamorous casinos. You might be the dealer running the absolute most popular poker table in the Bellagio.
Mhm.
You brought all your friends, everyone is having a great time, money's changing hands, but the house ultimately dictates the rules, they take the rake, and if they decide tomorrow that they want to put a row of slot machines right where your table sits, they will shut your game down without a second thought.
And you have absolutely no recourse.
None.
Because the economic incentives of these tech giants are structurally opposed to your independence. Their primary objective is to keep the user inside their walled garden.
Right, they don't want people leaving.
Exactly. If you post a link directing your audience to your website or your storefront, the algorithm actively suppresses that post because you are threatening their business model.
You are trying to usher people out of the casino.
Yes. And this isn't paranoia, it is the fundamental architecture of the modern internet.
And the text gives us this brutal, real-world case study to anchor this concept. The author shares a story from one of her ventures where she was writing under a romance pen name.
Oh, this story is just heart-wrenching.
It really is. She and a co-author had built this incredibly vibrant, highly engaged Facebook reader group. We are talking about 1,800 dedicated, active participants.
Which is huge for a specific niche.
Right. This wasn't a sterile broadcast channel where they just posted book covers.
Yeah.
It was a living, breathing community where real human connections were being formed. They were talking every day.
And from a business perspective, an asset of that size and engagement level has immense lifetime value.
Oh, absolutely.
In the publishing world, a core group of 1,800 hyper-engaged readers is enough to launch a book onto bestseller lists purely through word of mouth and coordinated buying momentum. It's a highly sophisticated economic engine.
But, and here is where the sharecropping concept becomes a nightmare. The architecture of that engine was entirely dependent on Facebook's admin mechanics.
Right.
A minor interpersonal disagreement occurred between the author and her co-author, just a falling out. And because the co-author possessed equal admin privileges within the platform's infrastructure, she just clicked a button and removed our author from the group.
Just like that.
Just like that. No warning, no appeals process, no mediation.
Yeah.
Instantly, the author lost access to 1,800 relationships.
Wow.
Her connection to her own readers was severed by a single click, and she was forced to start from absolute zero.
It perfectly exposes the fragility of the platform model. All of that sweat equity, all of those meticulously cultivated relationships just vanished into thin air.
And, I mean, the psychological toll of that kind of loss is staggering on its own.
Oh, for sure.
But the business implication is what we really need to focus on today. The practical takeaway here is an absolute imperative. You must build your foundation on land you cryptographically and legally control.
Right. Social media is an incredible discovery engine. It's the top of the funnel where the billions of people aggregate.
Right, it's where the party is.
But the immediate non-negotiable next step must be extracting those people from the algorithmic feed and moving them into a database you actually control.
Which brings us to the email list.
Yes.
But let's pause here and actually look at the friction, because if I'm a creator listening to this, I'm definitely thinking about the behavioral economics of my audience.
Okay. Play devil's advocate.
Well, social media is totally frictionless, right? The user is already there. They are doom scrolling for hours. Email, on the other hand, requires them to stop what they are doing, type in a full address, confirm a subscription via a double opt-in usually, and then actively decide to open a message later.
Right.
We are talking about adding massive friction to the user journey. By pushing people toward an email list, are we just intentionally shrinking our potential reach? Like, isn't email kind of old school at this point?
Okay, yes, you are intentionally shrinking the top-line vanity metric. That much is true. But you are doing so to exponentially increase the actual conversion value.
Okay, explain that.
This is where we have to dive into the underlying mechanics of how information is processed in different digital environments. That friction you mentioned, it's not a bug, it is a vital filtration system.
A filter.
When a user navigates that friction, when they actively take the time to type their email address into your form, they are crossing a psychological threshold. They are demonstrating intent.
Oh, I see. It's the difference between someone walking past your storefront on a busy street and just glancing in the window versus someone actually turning the handle, walking inside, and asking to see the menu.
That is a perfect analogy.
The volume of people on the sidewalk is always going to be higher, obviously.
Yeah.
But the people inside the store are the ones actually participating in the economy.
Precisely. And let's look at the protocols themselves, because the technology dictates the psychology here.
Okay.
Social media feeds operate on engagement-weighted sorting. The algorithm serves users whatever will trigger the strongest emotional reaction to keep them scrolling, usually anger or outrage, honestly.
Right. It's highly manipulated.
But email operates on an open protocol, SMTP, or Simple Mail Transfer Protocol. There is no algorithm sitting between your send button and their inbox deciding if your message is engaging enough to be delivered.
Right. It's just chronological.
Exactly. It is chronologically ordered. If you send it, it arrives.
That structural difference completely changes the environment.
Yeah.
I like to think of social media as trying to hand out flyers in the middle of Times Square.
Oh, that's a good one.
Right. It is complete sensory overload. Your carefully crafted message about your new project is sandwiched instantly between, like, a viral cat video, a highly produced corporate car ad, and a toxic political argument.
It's chaotic.
The environment is actively hostile to deep focus. You are literally shouting into a hurricane.
While the inbox, on the other hand, is an incredibly intimate space. I mean, in the modern era, our email inboxes are practically sacred.
They really are.
We guard them fiercely because they are where we conduct the serious business of our lives. It's our banking, our work correspondence, our personal logistics, flight tickets.
So if the social media feed is Times Square, the email list is like someone intentionally walking into your quiet, private living room.
Yeah.
They sit down on the couch, look you in the eye, and say, okay, what do you have to show me today? The distraction level drops to essentially zero.
Totally.
When they open that email, you monopolize their attention for exactly as long as they choose to read. There are no competitors' ads flashing in the margins. It is a direct, one-to-one human connection.
And because that buy-in is so extraordinarily high, because they have actively granted you access to their living room, the responsibility on the creator shifts dramatically.
How so?
Well, the practical takeaway is that you must treat the inbox with immense reverence. The content you deliver has to reward their focus.
Ah, right.
If you abuse that high-trust environment by treating it like a Times Square billboard, just blasting them with aggressive sales pitches every single day, they will revoke your access.
They'll kick you out of the living room.
Exactly. They will unsubscribe, or even worse, they will mark you as spam, which actually damages your deliverability across the entire network.
Okay, this presents a massive philosophical hurdle, though. If I've got them in the living room, but I'm not supposed to just shout, buy my product at them, What exactly am I supposed to say?
That is the million-dollar question.
The source material addresses this with what I consider the most disruptive idea in the entire chapter. The author boils her entire philosophy down to 2 sentences.
I love these 2 sentences.
She writes, first, you are not selling what you think you are. Second, if all you're using your list for is selling, you're doing everything wrong.
That first sentence requires a profound paradigm shift for most people.
Yeah, let's unpack that. You are not selling what you think you are.
Most creators operate under the illusion of commodity. A sci-fi author thinks they're selling a sci-fi book. A fitness coach thinks they're selling a workout plan.
Right.
But the internet has completely democratized access to commodities. Amazon has literally millions of sci-fi books available for instant one-click delivery. YouTube has decades worth of free fitness routines. You just cannot compete on the basis of product availability anymore.
So if the product is essentially infinite everywhere else,
Yeah.
then the product itself isn't the actual magnet.
Exactly the opposite. The magnet is the specific lens through which the product is created. Readers don't hand over their email address because they are desperate for just any book to read.
Right, they have a huge backlog already.
Exactly. They hand it over because they resonated with your specific voice, your unique perspective, the idiosyncratic way your brain synthesizes information. They're not buying the output, they're buying the creator. You are selling yourself.
Think about the immense psychological relief that provides.
Oh, it's huge.
I really want to paint a picture of the alternative here, because so many creators live in a state of perpetual anxiety over this exact thing. Imagine staring at your laptop on a Tuesday morning, knowing you were supposed to send your weekly newsletter.
The dreaded blinking cursor.
Right, but you don't have a new book coming out this week. You don't have a discount code to offer. You don't have a new course launching. If your entire philosophy is built on selling a commodity, you just freeze.
Yep.
You sit there thinking, I have nothing to push today, therefore I have zero value to offer my audience.
And that paralysis is exactly what leads to dormant email lists. The creator just goes silent for 3 months and then suddenly reappears with this highly aggressive "BY now" email when their new project finally launches.
Which feels terrible for the subscriber.
It feels awful. The audience feels used, the open rates plummet, and then the creator blames the algorithm or claims that email marketing is dead, but they completely misdiagnose the failure.
Right.
The failure wasn't the medium itself. The failure was the expectation of a transactional relationship in a highly intimate space.
The author provides the antidote to that paralysis in the text, and it's brilliant. She writes, you are the only thing you've got that no one else does.
I love that quote.
If your value is your humanity, your perspective, and your stories, you literally never run out of inventory. You always have something to say.
This completely upends how we measure success on a mailing list. If you are operating under the old paradigm, your key performance indicator is immediate revenue.
The digital cash register.
Exactly. You send an email, and then you feverishly refresh your dashboard to see how many dollars were generated in the next 24 hours. If the number is low, you view the email as a failure. But under this new philosophy, you have to stop measuring the health of your list by immediate sales conversions.
You start measuring it by relationship velocity.
Yes.
Like, are people actually replying to your emails? Are they clicking on the interesting, non-monetized articles you curate for them? Are they forwarding your stories to their friends? The goal of the communication isn't to extract value today. It is to compound trust for tomorrow.
And honestly, it democratizes the process of audience building. You don't need to be this slick, highly optimized copywriter using aggressive psychological triggers.
Act now, only 3 hours left.
Right. Those high-pressure sales tactics usually trigger an immediate immune response in the inbox anyway. People can smell the desperation a mile away.
They really can.
The most effective strategy is just radical authenticity. You share your process, your failures, the weird rabbit holes you fell down this week while researching. You treat the audience like intellectual peers rather than walking wallets.
Which leads directly into the ultimate economic goal of this entire framework. If we are stripping away the quick buck mentality, what is the actual destination we are driving toward here?
Right, what's the point?
The text uses a term that I think perfectly encapsulates the end game, and that is, we are building superfans.
The author explicitly credits David Gowan for popularizing this concept within the independent creator space. And we really need to draw a hard line between a customer and a superfan.
Okay, let's try it.
Because while they might look identical on a spreadsheet on day one, they both spent $10. Their lifetime value trajectories are radically different.
Let's bring in some broader economic context here, because this ties directly into Kevin Kelly's very famous essay on the 1,000 True Fans theory.
Oh, perfect connection.
The premise there is that you don't need millions of casual consumers to sustain a highly lucrative creative business. You just need a core group of people who will purchase quite literally anything you produce.
Right. A customer is driven by utility. They have a specific problem. Your product solves it. They make the transaction, and the relationship basically ends.
Like buying a plunger.
Exactly. Or, to use a media example, they buy a thriller novel at the airport for a flight, they read it, and they leave it in the seat back pocket. They have zero allegiance to the author. They just wanted to pass the time.
Right. They bought the song, they didn't buy the band.
Precisely. A superfan, however, is driven by identity. Because you have cultivated a real relationship with them in that high-trust environment of the inbox, they actually feel a sense of ownership over your success.
They want you to win.
They do. They don't just buy the ebook. They buy the hardcover, the audiobook, and the limited special edition. But their actual value extends far beyond their own wallet. A superfan functions as a decentralized marketing department for your business.
They are the evangelists. They are the ones physically forcing your book into their friends' hands, defending your work in comment sections online, and artificially inflating the algorithmic relevance of your products through sheer engagement volume.
And when you have an army of superfans, you become completely immune to the volatility of social media platforms we talked about earlier.
Because those fans will actively seek you out,
Yeah,
regardless of where you are.
exactly. If Facebook bans you, they will find your website.
But the text delivers a really profound moment of accountability regarding this dynamic. It states unequivocally that a lack of responsiveness on a mailing list is not a subscriber problem.
Oof. Yeah, this is the tough love portion of the chapter.
It really is. If your list is dead, it is a creator problem.
Right.
I want to lean into that because if I'm listening to this right now and I have an email list of, let's say, 5,000 people that I've basically been ignoring for 6 months, that is a terrifying reality check.
It's hard to hear.
It is so much easier to blame the subscribers, right? Like, oh, people just get too much email these days, or nobody reads anymore. But the reality is, I invited them into the living room, and then I ignored them until I needed rent money.
It forces you to look in the mirror. If the list is dead, it's because you failed to nurture the relationship. You failed to provide ongoing value. You treated a human connection like an ATM.
Let's workshop the solution for that listener, though. If someone is sitting there right now realizing they have completely mismanaged their audience, is the asset burned? Like, do they have to scrap the entire database and start over? How do you reactivate a relationship that you've let wither like that?
The good news is the human psychology of the inbox actually works to your advantage here. Because it is such an intimate space, it responds incredibly well to vulnerability.
Okay.
The most practical takeaway for a creator with a dormant list is to execute a transparent pivot. You send an email today, and you simply tell the truth.
You literally just say, I messed up.
You acknowledge the elephant in the room. You say, hey, I realize I've only been showing up in your inbox when I have something to sell. I've treated this relationship transactionally, and honestly, that was a mistake. I want to change how we communicate.
Wow. Just own it completely.
You apologize, and then you immediately offer value without asking for anything in return.
What kind of value?
You share a personal story, you give away a free resource, or you simply ask them a question about their lives and invite them to hit reply.
It mimics real-world social dynamics, doesn't it? If you've been a terrible friend for a year, you don't call them up and pretend everything is totally fine and then ask for a favor.
Right, that would be incredibly tone deaf.
You call them, you loan the bad behavior, and you initiate a repair. And when you shift the dynamic from a broadcast channel back to a two-way conversation, the data shows that dormant subscribers will slowly begin to wake up.
They really will.
They'll transition from these skeptical observers back into engaged participants and eventually into those evangelizing superfans we want.
If we synthesize all of these distinct mechanisms, the danger of digital sharecropping, the psychology of the inbox, the shift away from commodity selling, and the economics of the superfan, they all basically orbit around a single unified insight.
It is entirely about the locus of control in your business.
Exactly. We started by examining that terrifying reality that a tech giant can just evaporate your social media audience in a fraction of a second.
Right.
The countermeasure to that vulnerability is not to build a bigger social media audience. The countermeasure is to fundamentally change the nature of the relationships you are building. True, unshakable business security does not manifest from a viral post,
No.
and it does not come from a single transactional spike in product sales.
Those are just fleeting moments of algorithmic luck. True security is forged by owning a direct, distraction-free channel. It's having the courage to stand in that quiet digital living room and sell your authentic self, cultivating deep, resilient relationships that will easily outlast any single product launch.
They'll survive any algorithm update.
Right, and they will outlive the social media platforms themselves.
It's the only real safety net a creator has.
So as you process all of this, I want you to think about the platform where you currently have the largest following. The app you spend hours scrolling, analyzing, and stressing over. What happens to your income, your brand equity, and your entire business architecture tomorrow if that platform permanently deletes your account tonight?
It is without a doubt the single most important question a modern creator can ask themselves.
Now that we understand the philosophical foundation of why we must own our list, and the relationship-first mentality required to actually sustain it, the immediate operational question becomes, how do we construct this asset without ruining the foundation on day one?
That's the next big hurdle.
Join us for our next deep dive, where we will unpack the vital planning, technical setup, and strategic onboarding steps you absolutely must master before you invite a single subscriber inside your digital living room.
What if the absolute most important emails you will ever send to your audience are, the ones you only write exactly once, you set them on complete autopilot, and you literally never touch them again?
I mean, it sounds like a paradox, right? Especially when you look at the landscape of digital marketing today.
Yeah.
Creators and entrepreneurs are just spending hours agonizing over their daily or weekly communications.
Yeah, the grind is endless. Like most creators, authors, business owners, they spend all their time sweating over this week's newsletter.
Constantly trying to invent new material.
Exactly. They're obsessing over the subject line for like this Tuesday's broadcast and completely ignoring the crucial first date sequence. And that sequence is the primary filter that determines whether a new subscriber actually becomes a lifelong superfan or just another, phantom deadweight statistic dragging down your overall deliverability.
Right. Which is a huge problem.
So, today we are unpacking the exact mechanics, the algorithmic reality, and the underlying psychology of the onboarding sequence. We're pulling this from our source material on mastering author mailing lists. For anyone interested in business, writing, or just entrepreneurship in general, you are about to learn how to automate the transition of a casual browser into a loyal, engaged customer. We're going to explore how to build a deep, structural relationship before you ever even ask for a single sale.
And the really encouraging thing here is that the heavy lifting of relationship building can absolutely be systemized.
Which is such a relief.
Oh, for sure. By doing the psychological groundwork up front, by the time you actually have a product or a service or a book to sell, the audience has already been primed. I mean, they aren't viewing your email as this annoying intrusion. They're viewing it as correspondence from a known entity,
Yeah.
from a friend.
So let's clearly define what this onboarding sequence actually is, because I think a lot of people hear email marketing and they instantly picture like a digital megaphone.
Yeah, they really do.
They just think it's a tool to blast out, hey, here's my news, here's my product, buy my stuff.
And that megaphone approach is precisely why so many newsletters just completely fail to gain any traction.
Yeah.
We really need to draw a hard line here between a regular broadcast newsletter and an autoresponder sequence.
Okay, lay that out for us.
So a broadcast newsletter is tied to real-time events. You sit down, you write it on the Thursday, you send it on the Thursday. It covers a current event or a new launch, maybe a seasonal sale.
It's inherently temporary, ephemeral.
Exactly. But an onboarding sequence, on the other hand, is an autoresponder.
Yeah.
It's this locked-in series of automated emails, and it triggers the very second someone inputs their address into your sign-up form.
You're right.
You write the sequence once, you engineer the pacing perfectly, and it just lives forever, greeting every single new person who walks through your digital front door with the exact same carefully crafted experience.
The source material uses a comparison that I think really grounds this whole concept. It compares the onboarding sequence to a first date.
Yes. Such a perfect analogy.
Because when you sit down at a coffee shop on a first date, you do not immediately slide a 12-month lease agreement across the table and ask the other person to move in with you.
I mean, that behavior would trigger an immediate flight response. They'd be out the door.
But observe what people actually do with their email list. Like, a potential reader signs up to get a free short story or maybe a 10% discount code. And the very next automated email they receive is, buy my 10-book box set for $40.
Or book a $500 consultation call with me,
Yeah.
right out of the gate.
Yes, it is a massive mismatch in relationship pacing. On a first date, you share a little bit about yourself, you evaluate if you have common interests, you tell a story, you're just, mutually assessing if there is a foundational fit there.
And connecting this back to the broader landscape of consumer psychology, you have to realize that what you are actually selling during this onboarding sequence is your unique perspective, not the commodity you produce.
Wait, expand on that a bit.
Well, whatever you're selling, whether it's thriller novels, B2B consulting services, handmade ceramics, whatever the market is entirely saturated, there are literally 10,000 other people selling an identical functional product.
That's true. It's so crowded out there.
So the only differentiator you possess, the one thing that cannot be replicated by a competitor or by AI, is your specific personality, your quirks, your worldview.
Right.
The onboarding sequence is the dedicated architecture where you establish that unique connection well before the friction of a sales pitch ever even enters the dynamic.
Okay, but wait. If I'm listening to this right now and I have an email list of, say, 10,000 people from all walks of life, hyper-targeting just one specific personality type sounds incredibly risky.
It does feel risky at first.
Yeah. Like if I'm writing an email to thousands of different humans across different time zones with different lives, doesn't the tone naturally have to be somewhat generalized just to make sure it applies to all of them?
See, that assumption is the exact trap that produces those corporate, robotic-sounding emails we all hate getting.
The ones that just put you to sleep.
Exactly. When you try to write for everyone, you end up writing for no one. The text provides a structural solution to this, which is the subscriber avatar. You have to completely banish the image of a massive stadium crowd from your mind.
So no visualizing an audience.
No. When you sit down to draft your onboarding sequence, you are writing to one single, highly detailed individual.
And the text gives this amazingly granular example of this. The author doesn't just say, oh, my target reader is a middle-aged woman. They invent a complete persona. They name her Pamela.
Pamela is such a crucial exercise in cognitive framing. I mean, let's look at her. She's 38 years old. She's a financial manager for a healthcare conglomerate. She lives in Austin, Texas.
With her husband, who's a middle school teacher, and they have a 7-year-old kid.
Right. And they make a comfortable dual income, so they have a nice house with a backyard pool because, the Texas summers are absolutely brutal.
They really are.
And Pamela loves reading James Patterson thrillers. But crucially, she only really has the mental bandwidth to read for about 30 minutes right before bed, or maybe on Saturday mornings when her husband takes their kid to soccer practice.
The level of detail there completely changes how you approach the blank page. Like, I feel like I know Pamela.
You do. It's so specific.
But if I tailor my entire onboarding sequence specifically for a 38-year-old financial manager in Texas, I'm honestly terrified I'll alienate, the 60-year-old retired mechanic in Florida who also happens to enjoy my books.
Well, that's the beautiful paradox of copywriting. Hyperspecificity actually makes your writing feel more universally human.
How does that work in practice, though?
Let's look at the mechanics of it. If you write an email that opens with, I hope all of my readers are having a satisfactory weekend.
Ugh. Yeah, that carries zero emotional weight.
None. It's just filler text. But if you write, I'm sitting on my porch drinking terrible instant coffee, absolutely exhausted from trying to convince my kid to put on shoes for 20 minutes.
Oh, wow. Yeah, that hits completely differently.
Because you aren't just talking about shoes. You're talking about exhaustion, about the chaos of family life, about those quiet moments of desperation. So the 60-year-old retired mechanic in Florida, he remembers when his kids were young.
Or he just relates to the exhaustion of a long week.
Exactly. You aren't alienating him by being specific. You're inviting him to connect with a universal human emotion that is just embedded in a specific narrative.
You are sharing the universal themes underneath the granular details.
Right.
The stress of a demanding job, the chaotic reality of a household, that desperate need for just a quiet half hour to escape into a good book.
Yep.
And by writing to Pamela, you just naturally drop the marketing jargon. The whole syntax of your writing changes. You use shorter sentences. You use conversational idioms. You start writing like you're firing off a quick message to a smart friend.
The tone shifts entirely from a broadcast to a personal correspondence. And your sequence should be exactly as long as it takes to give that new correspondent a solid overview of your worldview and your work, and absolutely no longer.
Which brings us to a massive psychological hurdle that trips up almost every creator on the internet. And that is the primal fear of unsubscribe.
Oh, this is a huge one.
It really is. We are so heavily conditioned by social media to treat every single follower or every single email address as a precious metric of our self-worth. If someone clicks unsubscribe, it registers as a personal rejection, like it feels like a failure of our content.
It definitely stings.
But the source text makes an incredibly aggressive claim here. It argues that you actively want people to unsubscribe during your onboarding sequence.
You absolutely want them to leave if they are not a fit. And to understand why, we have to look at the harsh economics and the algorithmic reality of email infrastructure.
Okay, let's get into the economics.
Because every single person on your list is a financial liability. Email service providers, whether you're using ConvertKit, MailChimp, ActiveCampaign, they operate on tiered pricing. It's based on the total volume of your subscribers.
Right. The bigger the list, the more you pay.
Exactly. So if you harbor this massive list of people who literally never open your emails, you are paying a monthly premium just for the privilege of being ignored.
It's the equivalent of carrying dead weight in a leaky boat. You know, you're paying excess fuel costs to drag around cargo that provides zero forward momentum. You want a sleek, highly maneuverable vessel filled only with the people who actually want to be on the journey.
And the text introduces a really critical framework here to help creators identify who should stay in the boat and who should politely be thrown overboard.
The organic versus non-organic subscribers, right?
Yes, it separates them into those two distinct categories.
So an organic subscriber is someone who, for example, just stayed up until 2 in the morning finishing your latest thriller novel. They hit the final page, their adrenaline is running high, they see a link in the back of the book that says, hey, join my newsletter for a bonus epilogue, and they click it.
Right. They have incredibly high context. They already understand your style. They value your work.
They initiated the relationship based on the core product itself.
Exactly. Now contrast that behavior with a non-organic subscriber. This is an individual who found your sign-up form through a massive multi-author cross-promotion, or maybe a targeted Facebook ad promising a chance to win a $50 Amazon gift card.
Ah, yeah.
They did not sign up because they have any affinity for your writing. They signed up because their lizard brain saw the word free or win.
The freebie seekers. The digital hoarders who will download your lead magnet, toss it onto a hard drive with 1,000 other free PDFs, and just never actually open the file, let alone read it.
Those non-organic subscribers are the exact ones who degrade your list health over time.
So how do we deal with them?
Well, to combat this, the text suggests a highly specific toll booth tactic. And you deploy this at the very end of your onboarding sequence, specifically designed to process these non-organic leads.
Instead of continually offering them free content to try and bribe them into staying engaged, you offer them a bargain.
Right.
Like a 99-cent book or a severely discounted introductory product.
Exactly. You are erecting a tiny financial filter.
Just a small speed bump.
Yes. The goal is to actively weed out the segment of the audience who will never, under any circumstances, pull out their credit card. If someone is solely occupying space on your list to extract free resources, and they realize the era of endless freebies has concluded, they will hit that unsubscribe button.
And that's actually a good thing.
It is. When they do that, that is a successful system functioning exactly as intended.
So the practical application for you, the listener, is a complete reframing of list attrition. Every time a poor fit subscriber filters themselves out during that initial onboarding phase, your list density improves. It becomes more concentrated with actual buyers.
And your monthly software costs decrease.
Which is always nice. But letting those people go isn't just about saving money on your monthly MailChimp bill. There's an invisible algorithmic penalty for keeping them, isn't there? Because the technical mechanics of getting someone safely onto your list dictate literally everything that follows.
Oh, absolutely. Having a brilliant, psychologically calibrated onboarding sequence is entirely useless if the emails never actually render in their primary inbox.
Right. If they don't see it, it doesn't matter.
We really have to examine the technical gauntlet of modern email deliverability, specifically the barrier of the spam folder and the Gmail promotions tab.
And the source text is militant about the very first step of this gauntlet.
The absolute necessity of double opt-in.
Yes, double opt-in.
Well, see, double opt-in introduces a massive friction point. Like, when a user types their email into your website's form and hits submit, they aren't actually on your list yet.
No, they're not. They are sent an automated confirmation email, and they must physically log into their inbox, Open that specific email and click a verification link that confirms, yes, I am a real human who actually requested this information.
Which is necessary because it authenticates the address. It protects you from spam bots that just scrape the web and fill your forms with garbage data. But you are totally correct about the friction. I mean, let's map out the user experience here.
Walk us through it.
So the subscriber clicks submit on your landing page. They are highly motivated to get that free bonus epilogue, the cookie, as the text calls it.
Right, they want the cookie.
They immediately open their email app, but the confirmation email isn't in their primary feed. Where did it go?
It got aggressively filtered. It's sitting in their spam folder, or it's buried under 50 other marketing emails in the promotions tab.
Exactly.
And if they are just a casual internet user, they might scroll for 3 seconds, assume your website's form is broken, close the tab, and just walk away forever. You have lost the lead before the relationship even initiated.
And the source text insists on immediate intervention to prevent this exact scenario. The moment they hit submit, the redirect success page on your website cannot simply say, "Thanks for subscribing."
That's not enough.
No. It must issue explicit directive commands, like, go check your email right now. If you do not see a message from me in the next 60 seconds, check your spam folder. Check your promotions tab. You are actively assigning them a task.
You have to force them to actively hunt down that confirmation email.
Yes.
You also have to give them instructions on how to whitelist your email address. And whitelisting, for those who don't know, is the process where a user explicitly tells their email client, hey, I trust this sender. Always route their communications to my primary inbox.
Now, here's a rule in the source material that often confuses marketers. Because, honestly, it seems to violate all the principles of good customer service.
Oh, this is the part that blew my mind.
It's wild, right? The text insists that you must never, under any circumstances, include the actual link to your free gift, the cookie, inside that automated welcome email generated by your email provider.
Wait, the default welcome to the list, please confirm your subscription email that your software sends out must be entirely devoid of the actual reward.
Entirely empty of it, yes.
But that seems deeply counterintuitive. I mean, they went through the friction of confirming their email. They want their free book. Shouldn't you reduce the click depth and just give them what they want immediately on that very first interaction?
On purely surface level, yes, that makes sense. But to understand why this is actually a catastrophic mistake, we have to dive into the invisible algorithmic sorting happening on the server side. We need to dissect the mechanics of sender reputation.
Okay, yes. This is the hidden architecture of email marketing. Let's break down exactly how these filters evaluate you.
So global email providers, Gmail, Yahoo, Apple Mail, they operate massive, complex algorithms designed solely to protect their users from spam. And they assign a dynamic hidden score to your specific sending identity. This is your sender reputation.
So it's like a credit score for your email address.
Exactly like a credit score. If your reputation is pristine, your emails bypass the filters and land right in the primary inbox. If your reputation dips due to low engagement or spam complaints, you get routed to the promotions tab, or worse, straight to the spam folder.
And once you're in the spam folder, it's so hard to get out.
It's nearly impossible. Now, consider that initial automated confirmation email. When a user clicks subscribe, that first automated message does not actually originate from your specific, isolated sending history. It is generated by the provider's generic server pool.
Oh, okay, so if I use MailChimp, that confirmation email is being blasted out from a massive shared IP address that thousands of other MailChimp users are also utilizing.
Yes.
It has MailChimp's server fingerprints all over the header data, not my unique domain signature.
Precisely. And the algorithmic filters analyze those server headers. If you put the download link to your highly anticipated free book inside that shared server email, the subscriber will absolutely click it. They'll get their book and be happy. But you, as a unique sender domain, do not receive the algorithmic credit for that positive interaction.
That is wild.
MailChimp's shared server absorbs all the positive reputation data. You have essentially wasted the single most highly motivated click of the entire customer journey and gained zero sender reputation for your own domain.
Oh, man. That fundamentally changes how you have to structure the handoff. So how do we recapture that click for our own sender reputation?
You isolate the confirmation from the delivery. You use the automated shared server welcome email exclusively to say thank you for confirming your address. Now, go back to your inbox and look for a brand new separate email from me. That second email contains your free gift.
So you are intentionally introducing a second layer of friction.
Yes, you are.
But it's brilliant because you are forcing the user to return to their inbox and actively search for a second email, which constitutes the real email number one of your actual onboarding sequence.
Yes.
And because you are deploying that second email through your own authenticated campaign history, when they open it and code the download link, your specific sender reputation absorbs all of that algorithmic validation.
You are training the behavioral loop of your subscribers from minute one.
Yeah.
You are neurologically conditioning them that, hey, in order to receive value from me, you must proactively engage with my communications.
Right.
And that brings us to the internal architecture of that crucial email number one, and what the source text identifies as the trifecta of engagement.
The moment of truth. Email number one lands in their inbox. The Gmail algorithms are actively monitoring how the user reacts to determine if this message is corporate spam or a genuine correspondence from a trusted entity. So what specific metrics are those algorithms actually tracking?
They are weighing 3 definitive user actions. Do they open the email? Do they click a link inside the email? And do they reply to the email?
Open, click, reply.
Now, the digital marketing industry has historically completely obsessed over open rates. It's the standard vanity metric. Everyone talks about it. But the source text reveals that relying on open rate data is fundamentally flawed. And in the modern tech ecosystem, it is essentially useless.
Yeah, people treat their open rate like a report card.
Yeah.
But how does an email software platform actually know if you opened a message? Like, it's not magic.
No, it's very basic technology.
The software embeds a tiny, invisible 1x1 pixel image into the HTML code at the very bottom of the email. When a user opens the message, their email client has to download that invisible image from the host server, and when the server registers that image request, the software records a ping and logs that as an open.
And that mechanism relies entirely on the automatic downloading of images, which means the failure points of this system are massive.
What goes wrong?
Well, if a user is skimming their inbox using the preview pane in Microsoft Outlook, it frequently fails to trigger the pixel request. Or if a user is on a mobile network and has configured their device to block external images to conserve data, which millions of people do, the pixel never loads.
So they read the email, but it doesn't count.
Exactly. Furthermore, tech giants have actively moved to obscure this data. Apple's Mail Privacy Protection MPP, which rolled out a few years ago, fundamentally broke open tracking.
MPP was a massive shock to the system.
It changed everything.
Because Apple Mail clients now preemptively route emails through proxy servers, right? They're downloading all the images, including those tracking pixels in the background, before the user ever even looks at their phone.
Right. So your MailChimp dashboard might show a 70% open rate, but in reality, it's just Apple's proxy servers artificially triggering the pixels.
The data is entirely compromised. A subscriber could read every single word of your email, find it deeply compelling, but because their image settings blocked the pixel, your dashboard flags them as unengaged.
Yes. And conversely, Apple's proxy could trigger an open for a subscriber who immediately deleted the email without even glancing at it.
That's so frustrating.
Because open rates are structurally compromised, clicks and replies remain the only definitive, unfakeable metrics of actual human engagement. A click requires a physical interaction with a hyperlink. A reply requires keystrokes. Those actions cannot be artificially generated by a privacy proxy.
Right.
Therefore, in email number one, your sole objective is to engineer the trifecta: open, click, reply.
Okay, let's construct the architecture of this perfect email number one. How do we actually guarantee the trifecta? First, the visual presentation has to be clean and tightly branded. Second, we reiterate the whitelisting instructions just in case they didn't do it earlier.
Always remind them.
Third, we prominently feature the link to the free cookie. That secures the click portion of the trifecta because their motivation to acquire that freebie is at its absolute peak.
They want the book, they're going to click the link.
Exactly. But the reply is the hardest metric to capture. How do you convince a stranger to reply to an automated marketing email?
You deploy a psychological hook. You must ask a question that they feel an overwhelming compulsion to answer. And the text provides strict parameters for engineering this question.
It can't just be any question.
No, it cannot be a closed loop. It cannot be answered with a simple yes or no.
Like if I ask, hey, do you like reading thrillers? They will simply think the word yes in their head and immediately archive the email. The loop is closed internally. They don't need to type it out.
Right. The question must be open-ended, requiring them to formulate a unique response. Furthermore, it must be inherently positive.
Positive, why?
You want to anchor your brand identity to positive emotional states. The text illustrates this beautifully. You should never ask, are you frustrated by all the terrible derivative books cluttering the Kindle store?
Oh, yeah, that feels heavy.
It's negative. It presupposes a poor experience, and it puts the reader in a critical, combative mindset right away. Instead, you pivot the framing entirely. You ask, what was the absolute best book you read last year?
Oh, that's good. People are desperate to share their opinions on things they love. Like, if you ask someone about their favorite book or their favorite movie or their most played video game, they will write you a full paragraph.
They love talking about their passions. It is open-ended, it generates a positive emotional response, and it is highly relevant to an audience of readers. And here's the magic. When they hit reply and send that paragraph back to you, an incredible algorithmic shift occurs in the background.
Because normal people do not reply to corporate promotional blasts.
Never.
They only initiate two-way communication with real, trusted humans. So Gmail's filters immediately recategorize your sending domain. By extracting that reply in email number 1, you provide the algorithmic proof that you are a friend.
And that virtually guarantees that the rest of your onboarding sequence will bypass the promotions tab entirely and land directly in the primary inbox.
It is a masterclass in behavioral engineering. I just love it.
It really is.
So, okay, you have delivered the requested asset. You have prompted a question. You have secured the reply and established algorithmic trust. The technical gauntlet has been successfully navigated. The question then becomes one of pacing. What is the next move?
Well, the immediate instinct for most marketers is to strike while the iron is hot, right?
Yeah.
Keep sending emails. But the text aggressively emphasizes restraint here.
Restraints. Interesting.
Think about it. The subscriber just expended significant cognitive effort. They filled out a form, hunted through their spam folder, authenticated their address, downloaded a file, and potentially replied to a thoughtful question. If you hit them with another massive block of narrative text 12 hours later, you will induce email fatigue.
Yeah, they'll just feel overwhelmed.
So the timeline engineered by the text is highly deliberate to prevent that burnout.
Yeah.
You enforce a cooling off period. You wait 2 full days.
2 days of nothing.
Yep. And at that point, you trigger a microscopic check-in email. Something like, hey, just a quick note to make sure you were able to download the free book okay without any technical glitches. Let me know if you need any help.
I love that. It functions as pure, proactive customer service. It demonstrates a level of care rarely seen in automated marketing. And strategically, it provides a secondary net to catch another reply if they genuinely struggled with the download link.
Exactly. It's a win-win. But then you enforce another period of silence. You wait 5 additional days.
Wow.
This means you are a full 7 days post-sign-up before you even begin the real narrative sequence of your onboarding.
This 7-day mark is where the concept of authenticity transitions from theory into practice. This is the designated space where you begin weaving those hyper-specific quirks and personality traits into the narrative.
And we have to be careful with that word, authenticity.
Yes. I found the source material's definition of authenticity really refreshing because it explicitly states that authenticity does not equate to oversharing.
No, not at all.
You are not obligated to trauma dump on your audience. You don't need to share your deepest family secrets or your financial anxieties, but you do need to share highly specific, low-stakes opinions.
Give some examples of that.
Well, you reveal that you have an irrational obsession with street tacos, or you share a photograph of your cat, and the text actually includes this fantastic margin note asserting that pet pictures possess an almost universal appeal.
Oh, the data on engagement metrics involving domestic animals is remarkably consistent across virtually all demographics. It humanizes the sender instantly. People love pets.
Right. Or you offer a deeply held, slightly absurd opinion on pop culture. You analyze the current season of a reality show, or you debate the hierarchy of the Hollywood creases. Like, the author of the text firmly plants their flag on Chris Hemsworth being the superior Chris.
Which is a bold claim, but regardless of whether the reader agrees with the Hemsworth assessment, that specific detail serves a vital structural function.
What does it do?
It renders you as a 3-dimensional entity. It gives the subscriber a conversational hook that has absolutely nothing to do with the commercial product you are ultimately trying to sell.
Yeah, if I know you love rescue cats, street tacos, and have strong opinions on Marvel actors, The parasocial bond begins to form. I feel like we occupy the same cultural space.
Exactly.
This careful layering of personality leads directly into the core governing philosophy of the entire onboarding sequence, which is the give-to-ask ratio.
The give-to-ask ratio is the foundational economic principle of audience building. A give is defined as any element that provides unprompted value to the reader.
So a free short story, a highly entertaining personal anecdote, a beautiful piece of art, or just a curated list of recommendations.
Exactly. Anything that benefits them. An ask, on the other hand, is any scenario where you require the reader to expend capital, whether that is financial capital like buying a book, or social capital like leaving a review or sharing a link with a friend.
During the onboarding sequence, the architecture requires you to massively front-load the give. You are pouring entertainment, personality, and tangible value into their inbox for weeks. You are systematically building up equity in the relationship.
You're making deposits.
Yes, you cannot make a withdrawal because you are entirely focused on making deposits.
So any ask deployed during this multi-week onboarding phase must be incredibly soft and frictionless. Perhaps it's a subtle text link in the postscript of an email. P.S. If you want to check out my new book, here's a link. But you absolutely do not deploy high-pressure sales copy.
No buy now buttons flashing in red.
No, because the objective of the sequence is selling the concept of you as a trusted curator, not moving units of a specific product right this second.
You construct a narrative arc across these emails. The email shouldn't be random dispatches. Email 2 flows logically into email 3.
Right, like chapters in a book.
For example, email 2 might explore the bizarre historical event that inspired your first novel. And then email 3 follows up with the strained research rabbit hole you fell down trying to verify that event. You are pulling them through a story.
You're keeping them hooked.
But all sequences must eventually conclude. So how do we cleanly terminate the onboarding sequence and transition this primed individual into a standard long-term subscriber?
You terminate the sequence by eliminating all ambiguity. You explicitly dictate the future parameters of the relationship.
Just tell them what's going to happen.
Exactly. You say, thank you so much for spending this time with me over the last few weeks. Moving forward, the pace is going to slow down. You will hear from me exactly once a month on the first Friday with a new update.
Setting the expectation.
You set the expectation, and then you flawlessly execute against it. If you say the first Friday, you better send an email on the first Friday.
The text also recommends utilizing this transition point to invest them into a deeper layer of community. Like, if you want to chat between these monthly updates, come join my private reader group on Facebook or Discord.
Oh, that's smart.
It upgrades the architecture of the relationship from a one-to-many broadcast into a many-to-many community dialogue.
And that transition is a highly effective mechanism for solidifying superfan status. But, and this is a big but, the execution of this entire strategy introduces a massive logistical bottleneck for anyone operating at scale.
Okay, what's the bottleneck?
Well, if you are running a competent marketing operation, you do not rely on a single entry point. You have users flowing in from a targeted Facebook ad campaign. You have readers organically signing up via a link in the back of your debut novel. You have leads generated from a massive multi-author holiday cross-promotion.
The fragmentation of the audience.
Exactly.
You could easily have 5 to 10 different entry points active simultaneously. So if the core rule of onboarding is hyperspecificity, do I have to manually write and maintain 10 completely distinct 5-part email sequences? Because managing 50 separate automated emails sounds like an administrative nightmare that just defeats the entire purpose of automation.
Maintaining parallel sequences is incredibly inefficient, and it's highly prone to structural errors when you need to, say, update a broken link or change a piece of core branding across 10 different funnels.
Sounds awful.
The author of the source text identifies their personal approach as, quote, lazy but scatterbrained, unquote, which is actually a brilliant disguise for a highly optimized modular workflow that utilizes what we can call the tree branch strategy.
Okay, let's visualize the structural logic of this automation. Picture a massive oak tree. You have all these disparate branches reaching out in different directions. The Facebook ad branch, the back of the book branch, the holiday promo branch.
Right, they operate as separate, isolated capture pathways.
But as you trace them back, every single branch inevitably feeds into one solid, centralized trunk.
Yes. So in the back end of your email software, using tagging and conditional logic, this means you only write multiple variations of email number 1.
Oh, okay, so the entry point is customized, but the sequence itself is not.
Correct. If a user enters your ecosystem via the January Romance Bundle, the software triggers an email 1 specifically tailored to that branch. Hey, thanks for discovering my work through the January Romance Bundle. As promised, here's the specific fantasy novella you requested.
It acknowledges their exact origin point. The contextual relevance is incredibly high.
Exactly. But if they organically sign up after finishing your first book, the software triggers a completely different email 1. I am so thrilled you finished book 1. Here is the secret bonus epilogue from the villain's perspective.
So the front door is customized.
Yes, the front door is unique, but the architectural genius lies in the automation rules applied at the bottom of those respective emails. Regardless of which version of email 1 they receive, the system is programmed to apply a universal tag that drops every single subscriber into the exact same holding queue for email 2.
They all merge into the trunk of the tree.
Exactly. The core narrative sequence, email 2, email 3, email 4, where you execute the give-to-ask ratio, you share the pet pictures, you build the parasocial bond, that dense multi-email sequence is only drafted once.
Wow.
The software acts as a funnel, taking highly fragmented entry points and seamlessly routing them into a unified, centralized narrative.
The return on time investment there is just staggering. You construct the core sequence once. A year from now, when you launch a brand new promotional campaign on a completely different platform, you don't have to build a new 5-part funnel.
Yep.
You simply duplicate an old email 1, rewrite the opening paragraph to provide the correct context for the new traffic source, wire it into the main trunk, and the entire system operates flawlessly.
You work once, and you extract value in perpetuity. This modular architecture allows you to scale your front-end marketing infinitely without proportionally scaling your back-end administrative workload.
It's so elegant.
It really is. You can manage 20 disparate traffic sources, greet every single user with hypo-personalized context at the front door, and seamlessly guide them into the exact same carefully engineered living room.
You know, that concept of architecture is the perfect synthesis for the entirety of this deep dive. When you analyze all the granular tactics we've explored today, the psychology of the Pamela avatar, the strict enforcement of double opt-in, the algorithmic manipulation of sender reputation through the engagement trifecta, and the modular logic of the tree branch automation, none of these are isolated marketing hacks.
No, they're not tricks.
They are the deliberate psychological architecture of a structural relationship.
If you approach your email list as a digital ATM, just a mechanism where you simply punch in promotional copy and expect to withdraw revenue, the system will collapse. The users will experience banner blindness, the engagement metrics will plummet, and the global server algorithms will quietly just bury your communications in the spam folder forever.
But if you deploy this highly structured, automated onboarding sequence to fundamentally invest in a two-way dialogue, if you respect the cognitive load of your reader, if you heavily index on providing value before you ever ask for capital, if you treat them like a specific human in Austin, Texas, rather than a data point on a spreadsheet, your audience will not just tolerate your marketing.
They won't.
They will actively anticipate it. They will search for your name in the chaos of their inbox.
It completely transforms an audience from a list of passive consumers into an ecosystem of active advocates.
You now possess the exact architectural blueprint to welcome people into your ecosystem, engineer unshakable trust, and navigate the algorithmic gauntlet of the spam folder using a systemized automated sequence. But all of this flawless back-end architecture relies on one massive, unresolved variable.
A foundational problem of traffic generation.
Precisely. You have constructed the perfect, highly optimized living room. But how do you actually convince a stranger to walk through the front door in the first place? Next time, we are going to explore the psychology of the perfect subscriber and analyze the specific lead magnets, the ethical bribes, and the psychological triggers you must deploy to get them onto your list. Because ultimately, the most brilliant onboarding sequence in the world is useless if the room remains empty.
What you just listened was the beginning of a full audio, way longer, explaining every single chapter of the book. If you would like to keep listening to the end and access to the full audio, you can access it with the link down below in the description and in the pinned comment.